Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Healing Home. I'm your host, Michelle, and today we're here at a special time, a little earlier, which is always a nice treat, like shake things up. And I'm a morning person, and so it's always nice when a guest wants to bump up the time because it just changes things up for me, and then it puts me into a new mindset and it keeps things fresh. So today we have a very special guest, as I feel like I say with every guest. But this is a very special woman who's joining us today, and her name is Laurie Lava-Books, and she is the owner of Two Spirit Medicinals. Now, I've known Laurie for many years. We're both herbalists, and we both live in the Pacific Northwest. And so, while I was living in Portland, she owned a shop in Portland, Clary Sage Herbarium, and that's how I got to know her. And over the years, I've just really enjoyed knowing her, following her work, imbibing in her beautifully created medicines that have been very healing and helpful to me and many others. So I thought it was high time to bring Laurie into the Healing Home so we can have a conversation about all of her wisdom that she has to share with everybody, what she has going on, and to introduce you to Laurie and just show her and showcase all of the work that she's been doing. So without further ado, help me in welcoming Laurie to the stream. Hi, Laurie. How are you?
Hi. Good. Happy to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy to have you. And thanks for sharing some time with us today. And I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. So for anybody who is unfamiliar with your work, would you please introduce yourself and let people know where they can find you? And if you have anything else that you'd like to share with us before we get started.
Yeah. So, I am currently what I'm doing in my life is making medicine for my Two Spirit Medicinals line. And we make emotional and spiritual support medicine, which I think it's extremely relevant right now in our times. And I've, like you mentioned, that I had a herb shop for many years, and I've just seen more and more emotional imbalances in people. And I know everything is like tied together with like emotional health with physical health, but I want to tap into the root before it gets to the physical health. So the medicine that I'm making is more in that vein. And I live in the country now in Battleground, Washington, and I feel more in tune and more engaged with spirit. And so, even though I am the maker in some ways, but spirit is also my co-maker with the medicine that I make. And so, I don't feel like it's all me, because sometimes I get downloads and I don't even know exactly where it's coming from. But yeah. Anyway, but I also wanted to start with a prayer, if that's possible, to help me ground and just to set the intentions of this conversation that we're going to have today.
Of course.
You don't mind?
Love it.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent, people. Okay. So ground myself for a second here. Aho, Creator, Grandmother, Grandfather, all my relations, we invite you to be with us and guide us and Michelle in my conversation today. May we touch hearts when we share what listeners need to hear and inspire their healing journey. I would also like to ask that you protect the innocents in the war that is currently happening in the world today. Please bring peace, healing, and the homeland restored to the Palestinian people. Yotwa. Okay.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. This is the kind of stuff that's so important, and that I think that can be easily forgotten, especially in times when things are in more upheaval and more people seem or feel to be ungrounded. And that's one of the things about you that I was always attracted to, even the very early stages of going into your shop in Portland. And when it was tucked behind the house. And Laurie had a shop, and it was on a street called Alberta Street in Portland, one of the main vein streets in terms of just culture and art and shops and coffee shops, restaurants. And I'll always remember walking into your shop the first time and feeling that there was something different there. There was something more rooted and something more genuinely in touch with spirit. And I could tell by the way you just held your space by that. And that was one of the things that kept me coming back. And so when you mentioned wanting to do a prayer, I was like, yes, this is exactly what we need for this conversation. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Thanks
I
for
have to
having me.
say, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Thanks for having me and all the sweet things you just said. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, of course. And before we get started, I just want to show that I'm sharing or I'm enjoying your lightness of being tea, which has been one of my favorite blends of yours, both the potion or tincture and the tea. And especially in cases where we're out in the public, we're speaking, that's when things of insecurities can pop up, or you start spinning your mind. Oh gosh, did I say the wrong thing or whatever? And your remedies have been such a great way to help me just overcome things like that and to process emotions that can be harder to process. And plants and herbs are really great for that. So thank you for making all your beautiful things. And I've always enjoyed them.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's talk about, okay, so people can find you though at twospiritmedicinals.com, correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. And that's down in the description below as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to introduce people to you a little bit because I've actually interviewed you before, and it was years ago when you were
Yeah, I
still owning
remember
the
that.
shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I know some of the answers to these questions, but because I'm introducing you to
Uh-huh.
my audience, I want you to talk a
Yeah.
little bit about your history in terms of, studying metaphysics and magic and herbalism, because you have a very rich history of it. And if you wanted to just kind of go through your history of that, how you found herbs and the metaphysical world, and how you've incorporated into your life.
Yeah. My journey started, I was about 18, and I was at a Ren fair. Remember those? Yeah. I mean, I don't think that they're near as cool as they were back in the day,
Yeah,
but
probably not.
I had seen these, like, there was a kind of like an apothecary vendor, and they had these little amulets that did, like, they had these love amulets, and I would watch, like, these women or girls, like, squeeze, like, buy them, and they wear them, and they'd squeeze them, and like, and then all the guys were almost kind of looking for the women that were wearing them, because they're like, aha, like a woman with a flower in her hair. Um, so I saw, it just intrigued me, and I was like, wow, herbal things like that can do that? Like, So I started making my own, and I would make one for, healing and love and protection. And so that sort of started the beginning of my curiosity with herbs. And as I got to know the herbs more, I started learning the medicinal properties of them. And I started making salves. I made salves for this all women tattoo shop in San Francisco called Black and Blue. And so it was a tattoo aftercare salve. And that was like probably one of my first like retail, kind of like, maybe I can make money off it, like making medicine, and I could support myself doing that. I don't think I supported myself making these salves for the shop, but it did plant seeds, that as I grew as an herbalist. I would love to say that I had like ancestral teachings from my tribe. I'm a member of the Karuk tribe. I didn't say that in the opening. I forgot, but I'm Yurok and Karuk, and a tribal member of the Karuk Nation in Northern California. And I am also obviously with a pale skin. Like, I have some Scottish ancestry and some other European stuff. But I think I can't say that I actually had like a grandmother or somebody or a mother that like taught me about herbalism, but I do feel like ancestral knowing has come through me. And as I've like honed in more, I'm learning more. And I'm pretty self-taught, but I can't say you can't say that completely, because there's always going to be people that you're going to meet in life that are going to share wisdom with you that you just kind of collect as you go along the way. Um, but I do like to, what's fun for me is to do meditations with plants and have a notebook like that. I don't really know that much about the plant, and just really meditate with it and write down all, like, just let it download itself on me. And then I'll go online and I'll like check and see like if these are actually like real things. And it is really amazing how true it is and how more in tune we are than we think that we are. I encourage everyone to try that. You know, if they don't think that, because everyone second guesses themselves and they're like, oh, I'm making that up. But when you are realizing you get that validation that what you downloaded was true, it's encouraging.
Yeah,
Did
that's
I,
great. And
did
I
I
always
answer your question?
Yeah, you did, you did. We talked about your start,
Okay, yeah.
and it was in, Ren Fairs, but I know you were in San Francisco for quite some
Hmm.
time. And then, you moved up to, Oregon. I don't remember when, but
Like
talk a
2003,
okay.
2004.
And so that's when you started, your herb shop, but it was, I love your story of how it starts, because you started small and then, you were able to make it work for yourself, and then you were able to actually get more of a storefront. So if you want to talk a little bit about that journey, because that's always inspiring, because I
Yeah,
find that there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of dreams and goals that they think are unattainable,
right.
but and they forget that it's okay to start small, and the biggest thing, the hardest thing is literally just starting and just taking
Hmm.
that first step.
Hmm.
So, and I think as women too, I think it's more encouraging sometimes to hear it from people that might think like, "Oh, it's harder for a woman, or it's harder for this type of person or whatever." But I think deep down it just comes to that innate drive that I think all of us have to want to be successful, to want to help people. And I think that your story is a really good example of that.
Great. Yeah. I'm pretty proud of that, I would say. I'm trying to straighten my camera here. Um, I had worked at in a retail store in a wellness department. I'm not going to say which store, but I didn't feel like I was moving up, and nobody was giving me a chance. Even though I know I can do this, I'm a bit of a firecracker, and usually like I'm more of a leader. So like I can see why they probably didn't want me in upper management, because um, I don't always drink others' Kool-Aid as readily as they would want you to in a big corporation. So eventually I was like, I believe in myself. I got to do this, like I don't have any money. So I just tried to gather a little bit of like, seed funds from family members or whatever. And I had like maybe $500. I didn't have any savings. I was making, like $12 an hour at this like grocery store in the wellness department. And I found a it was in an art gallery on Stark Street, 7th and Stark. And it was a community of artists that had different walls in this kind of a warehouse space. And so they would have like a wall that they would put their art on each month. And then I had this little kiosk in the middle, and I sold them on it because I'm like, I will always be here. You guys don't want to sit here waiting around for customers to come in or people to come and see your art. But if I'm here, the doors will be open. And they're like, and I'm like, and it's also an art, right? Like medicine is an art.
Oh
Like,
yeah, it's
so
totally an art.
so medicinal art. So they agreed to let me come in. I made like, it was like $175 a month. And I had this like little tiny kiosk and a wraparound counter. And everybody would come in at night because there was also galleries in the back. I mean, like art studios, and they'd have music shows. So I had to like put everything behind the counter and put up like this bamboo um, kind of a accordion thing to lock it up, all my stuff. So it was kind of a pain in the butt. But I started that way, and I got my feet wet and started, getting all my systems in place. And I did that for about 6 months. And this place was a converted garage on Alberta Street, which I always wanted to be on Alberta. And this converted garage opened up, and it had like a little garden pathway. It was the one that you remember. It was like 10 by 18. So it was 180 square feet, really tiny. The other one was like maybe 100 square feet. It was like really, really small. And then this one was super small too. And I think at the time I was like, oh, he kept my rent there for, he was really kind, the landlord of that one. And so I think it was like $400 or something. It was
Oh,
amazing.
wow. That's
And
amazing.
so, yeah, so I didn't have a bathroom or anything. So there were some challenges, but that place, because it had the garden, so I was able to garden, and that's why I think it felt more welcoming, because it was like a home. It was like walking into my bedroom, which was kind of hard sometimes because, customers sometimes are just very clueless and kind of rude. They can be. Some
Yeah.
are very kind, but, like you don't put your wet plant baby on someone's like velvet chair, so it was hard. Like you have to have more of a retail space that kind of allows that kind of stuff. And I think that particular one felt very, very personal to me. So it was like, I'm inviting you into my home, and I was there for about 5 years. And then a spot right next door to La Bonita opened up that was like a retail storefront. And that one's still small. That was 320 square feet. And that one, I kept the one that I currently was in, which was the converted garage. And I use that one as like our break room and classes and things like that. And storage, because the other place was still very small. We didn't have room for storage, but we did really well there. And then when the space next to that opened up, like it was like really right next door. It just went, and then that was the final place for Clary Sage in my term. I mean, in my term. It's still there, but I sold it in 2021, and that one is like 900 and something square feet, and it's like much larger. But yeah, I lost when I moved from that little garden shop. I lost the intimacy, I think, of that feeling of like you're in somebody's like little cozy home space,
Yeah, I could see that, but it still was cozy. You still kept the cozy all throughout each move, in my opinion, being a
Yeah.
patient who came in and, a friend, and I was like, your energy of that though remained. And that's one of the things too that I think is challenging when you own a business. But it says a lot about a person and their integrity when I think that happens when they make big changes, but you still feel that essence of them that's there.
Mhm,
And,
mhm.
we all could talk about businesses we've seen evolve over the years, and then
Yeah,
at some point they evolve and you're like, "Man, but there's something missing?" I've never
yeah.
felt that way about your work and your
Oh, well, that's good.
and yeah, and so and that came through in the shops, and I think because, when you moved, you actually were right on the sidewalk, you had window view, street view, whatever you wanna say, and so that in
Mhm,
and of itself gave you exposure that you weren't getting, when you were back tucked in,
mhm, mhm,
so
mhm.
it's a really cool story, and I think it's really awesome, and I hope it inspires somebody else out there who's,
Yeah.
maybe on the fence or not sure, or they might
No
not think
one's
they have
gonna
enough.
believe in you but you, and it might seem, I lived off credit cards too. Like, I didn't do all the things that somebody'd be like, "You need to go get a loan," or whatever. I just started small. I didn't bite off more than I could chew. And, did I have to live like extremely frugally for quite some time. Yeah, I did. But I'm really glad that I did it and I took that chance on myself, because if you don't try, you don't know. And yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I just think it's really awesome. It's awesome to see how far you've come and everything else. And I have to say, because I noticed there's an extra thing on your name below here.
Mhm,
How do
mhm.
you pronounce that word, your counseling service?
Conchifich.
Ah, when did you start
Yeah.
this?
About a year ago with Prosper Portland, I was doing it through their IBRN program. I still am. And I can also do it like privately for whoever. And it's really, I like to empower. I love opening businesses. I like starting businesses. Um, I like to give advice, and why it'd be great to get paid for it. But yeah, like how to open a business, it doesn't have to be that daunting. And I'm happy to do some hand holding, however somebody needs to start a business and get it off the ground. And so that's what I'm doing as a little side project to
Nice. That's
make
awesome.
ends meet. Mhm.
Very cool. Well, cool. And one of the other cool connections that we have too is with Two Spirit Medicinals. Mario, my fiance, is the guy who designed the website, made the labels,
Yeah,
and all
yeah,
that stuff. So I think that as a unit, it's really cool that we all kind of worked together that way, and that
mhm.
Mario kind of brought that to the table. And so that's been really
Mario is
cool to see.
amazing. He was
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, I don't know if he's not doing um, the kind of graphic design right now, though, is he? He's more in
Yeah,
a
he is.
symbolic. Okay,
He's
so he's
doing
doing
his
symbolic
sym
studies.
symbolic studies, yeah, but he still has, like, clients on the side,
Okay.
but it's like he's trying to manage his time so that kinda like what we're talking about, all the things that he really wanted to do,
Yeah,
and, like, put his information out
yeah,
there, that was, like, his version of it, and
yeah.
still keeping design. I think I've always told him this, but I just think design is gonna be part of his life, like, ultimately, because he's so talented at it and it's just part of his art. And so I think that now he's finding a balance of what are the
Mhm,
amounts that I want, what works for
mhm,
me
mhm,
to allow me to
mhm.
do what I really, really wanna be
Yeah,
doing. So, it's
yeah.
been fun.
Labeling and all that, as you know, is a big deal. It's a really big deal. And the minute little things, that go into it uh, is a lot to think about, or to, go back and forth with somebody. But Mario is so easy to work with. And even though I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have him revise this one more time, he was always so kind. He allowed me that, to make those changes, not just agree to something that I wasn't really 100% sure I liked. But every idea I gave him, he just slayed it. He was amazing. He like understood. He understood my vision, and that was priceless. It was really, really grateful to work with him. And my website is gorgeous, and my labels are gorgeous and clear and tidy, and yeah, super profesh. I love it.
Yeah, it's a really good pairing, I think, and I feel like you guys just connected on a cool level, and it comes through in all the work. So anyone who checks out that stuff, it's been touched by Mario in some way as well. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool pairing.
Yeah.
So you then had Clary Sage and you sold that. And before you sold that though, you did start to Spirit as well. And so you were kind of in a transition phase. So can you talk a little bit about the motivation to begin to Spirit and what that looked like for you?
Um, I started that with like two of the products, the Protective and Clearing and Serenity Now, were two Clary Sage formulas that I kind of flagship there, and they did really well. I add honey to them and essences, so they're a little bit more unique than just a regular tincture. Um, and those did really well. So I knew that I wanted to sell the shop at some point, and I didn't want to give those to to the buyer. So I decided to pull it apart and make my another line. And so while I still carried Clary Sage, I had Two Spirit Medicinals as another company within, like, not even a DBA. I made them separate because I knew that I was going to take it with me and I didn't want it tied up. Which some people thought that was kind of crazy. Like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you? I'm like, no, because it's going to be more tidy when I leave. Because I knew what my end goal was. I couldn't. I doing retail in that capacity long term is hard. Um, I enjoyed it every minute until the point where it wasn't bringing me as much joy to do anymore. And then I knew it was time. Everybody needs a new chapter once in a while, like in 10 years. I had it for 10 years, Clary Sage. So with Two Spirit, I started it that way, but I really focused on the line and creating the company when my mother was passing away. And that was in 2017. And because I felt so raw, and the Emotional Heart Ally was one that I did create during the time of grief. And when she did pass away, it helped significantly, like just helped me sort the grief so it wasn't so incredibly crippling that I couldn't pull myself out of it. Just kind of almost seemed like it put like a tap on it just a little bit, just to kind of like let it out, let you be able to sort through it without it just gushing out and like having to lay in bed with the covers over your head for months. And I was very close to my mother, so that was like one of the hardest things that I'd ever gone through in my life. And so the medicine started coming forward after that, and maybe even in some ways it just gave me something to do when she was, after, when people are grieving, they often want to stay really busy.
Yeah.
And that was a very healing thing to do, to keep myself busy, was to create other formulas in that line as well.
Yeah, and I'll say, as you said, they're not like normal tinctures. They are because of the process that they're made in, but the addition of the gem and the flower essences, it really just it amplifies everything. And I feel like when I've taken your medicine at your recommended dose, which is typically like 1 to 6 drops, is usually is one of your suggestions. It's always come through for me in such a beautiful way, all of them. And I have stories for pretty much every single one of them. But, restoring the sacred hoop is one of my favorite ones that really, really brought some deep, deep healing to me. And I want you, if you are open to talking about this one specifically, because it's healing support for the sexual and domestic trauma survivors. And, we all have trauma. Everybody does. But I think in the sexual realms, it is a particularly deeper wound that a lot of times we try and cover these ones up a little bit more. But your medicine that you've created for this has been so helpful. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it and just talk a little bit more about the process of making it. And if there's anything that stands out to you that came through for you when you were creating it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, when I was creating it, I was thinking of all the people I love in my life, that has suffered that way and has changed them to, I could, like, I don't want to like expose anybody's personal things, but I have a family member dear and close to me who is now using, they couldn't ever really repair that. And now they're living on the streets and using fentanyl, and they're, didn't start that until late in life, because it never went away. And Um, I have a lot of friends that have just suffered so hard from that kind of stuff that I just felt like I needed to be part of a solution for people. This is my gift to people and people I don't know, but like people that I'm really close to that I have actually experienced how this affects your life for a lifetime. Um, and so I wanted them to be seen and heard and know that there are plant allies out there for them that can help them sort through some of those feelings. And so I just opened up the Restoring the Sacred Hoop on my website to read this off. It's so, and it was actually Mario who gave me the idea to put like little intentions on the bottles. And I don't know if you said it like that, but I was like, that's a brilliant idea. So now all of them have an intention, and it just like the synergy of us working together was just so brilliant. Um, but this one says, life experiences made me the warrior I am. I am grateful for my resilience that provided me the power to heal. And I like that it's like all my intentions are things that are embodying what you want to feel like, not saying I'm going to, or I'm like, the affirmations are, I am this. I am a freaking warrior. I've got through this, and it has it does create even horrible things that can happen to people can change them in good ways. It can also really tear you down if you don't try to work through it. But it also makes you who you are. And being a warrior is not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. So there's a lot of herbs in here for heart healing and like the albizia, which that one is in a flower essence in this formula, and the arnica and comfrey. And those are like the albizia. Are you familiar with mimosa? It's also called mimosa.
Yes.
Yeah, and that one in Chinese medicine is for disturbed shen, which is like a traumatic break in their life, where like you kind of sever your life the way that it was, and that is an amazing, beautiful, powerful herb for most things that are trauma. There's even ghost pipe in here as an essence, and that one is very helpful for grounding, deep grounding when you're just out here. You just need to bring that power back in you. Hawthorn is in almost every single one of my formulas because it just, because they're emotional health medicine. So Hawthorn is like the queen of all of that. I love her. She's just so heart healing and powerful. And then there's Ocotillo in here, and that one makes it specific for sexual trauma. I mean, I think you could even use this for ancestral trauma as well, because of the arnica and the comfrey, and just like in that healing of trauma in general. But the Ocotillo is one for just like stimulating the circulation in your lower extremities and your reproductive system, and places that have gotten stuck. And so I've put that one in there, even though I usually like to have met all the plants in person, but I've never met that one in person. So that one is on my bucket list because it's an amazing plant, and I've seen it and I can feel it from afar, but I've still never met that plant yet.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sorry to hear about your family member. And I hope it didn't bring up anything too painful while we're in the interview. But I just know from personal experience using your tincture, and from personal experience of having to go into those darker sides of myself, that it is just one of those areas that it usually is a key to unlock a lot of things, but a lot of people never want to turn that key.
Mhm.
Um, and, maybe they're not meant to in this lifetime, and that's okay. And you almost have to allow people to not be ready or whatever it is for them. But I'll say, with your medicines, what I notice is that, and with working with all plants with trauma, the lower the dose, sometimes the better, and the
Yeah,
more emotions that will come out.
agree.
And that's part of the spiritual medicine that I
Mhm.
wanted to talk to
Mhm.
you about too, is
Mhm.
just that how, you talked about meditating with plants, and literally how sitting with a plant can sometimes be the medicine you needed to unlock something that is going to create an outpouring of emotion that you didn't expect. And so what to you, what does that what are we tapping into when we tap into that? Obviously it's spirit. We are etheric beings. I believe we, swim in the ether with these frequencies. But like from your perspective, when you're meditating with a plant, what do you feel that you're communicating with?
Gosh, so many things. I mean, it could be ancestors that have passed before me. There could be the plants themselves. The plants themselves, I feel like I um, learn a lot from, and they tell me like who wants to be in what formula and why. Um, yeah, it's pretty amazing if you think about all the spirit we can tap into at
I
any
know.
given time.
I
So
know.
much, so much. And it's a shame that we have become so colonized in a way that we don't feel these things anymore, or we don't give value to it anymore. Um, yeah, I I think it's a lot. It's a lot of things, and and sometimes I pull things from what I've learned, but I also put that in check too. Is that true? Where am I learning that from? Is that? So I do like to let spirit be the guide for most of these formulas. The majority of them, I just listen.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Because I think listening and asking questions, I'm beginning to, really see is kind of like our role here, instead of always feeling like we need the answer, right? And
Mhm.
Mario and I have been talking a lot about that, and he kind of posed that to me a couple of weeks ago, of just thinking about, I think it's all about just continuing to ask questions, and if you don't get an answer, to not stop asking questions. And I think not getting answers sometimes makes people feel like they're maybe asking the wrong question or whatever. But I don't think it's about that. I think we're just conditioned, because we go through schooling the way we do and everything else, that you're supposed to have an answer, and if you don't have an answer, you're wrong, you're bad, this and that. And I think part of that conditioning is part of the reason why people have lost a lot of the connection to nature and nature spirits and the land spirits and plant spirits, because they're expecting it to be this black and white answer. But it actually sometimes doesn't come out like that. You might walk away
Mhm.
from the plant, and 2 hours later, you're like, oh, that's what blue vervain was trying to say to me. But at the
Mhm.
moment, I didn't
Mhm.
see it, I didn't feel it, or something pops up
Mhm.
for you, and you're just like,
Mhm.
that's exactly what I was supposed to see
Mhm.
there.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, pay attention to the plants that are demanding your attention. What is that? What do you need from me? What do I need from you? Like how what are you trying to share with me? In dreams or just in the waking, whatever. If you're feeling like a plant is calling you, there's a reason for it. Um, there was a fun little game I used to play in Clary Sage sometimes where people would just ask me what herb comes to my mind for them, like they're like, "What's my herb?" And I usually was pretty good at it too, of like channeling an herb for them that wanted to be seen and yeah, cherished from them.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. And, and then if you look into the studies of people like Matthew Wood, who understand the doctrine of signatures, and then you understand a
Mhm,
person's body system, their
mhm,
body type, tissue states, all that, it's interesting how there are people that embody the shape even of a plant, or their
mhm,
color, or
mhm,
they might be a little red, or
mhm,
whatever the color is going on, that they're flushed, they're feeling flushed or something.
mhm,
I just think that there's something so beautiful when you look at it more from a broader spiritual perspective. Science and all the research is important as well, to understand the constituents and all these things that are happening, the chemistry behind it. But I think that there's something even more deeper and more healing when you look at it from that perspective of kind of like
yeah,
allowing things to flow through.
yeah, I can say I'm not a clinical herbalist, and I don't want to be. Like, there are things that I know about it, but I feel like it takes away the magic, I mean, like, you can look at a plant and go, "Oh, I bet you that is, like, something good for the kidneys." And in time, that's important and good, but for the most part, I don't put my formulas based on a lot of that. It's really what just is, spiritually coming to me, because I don't think that you can quantify everything in clinical terms.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And part of my journey as an herbalist was realizing in the beginning of my journey, trying to figure out, where do I fit here? What do I really like about it? And thinking, maybe clinical herbalism is my thing. Maybe I do want to do that. And like trying to fit myself
Mhm.
into that square peg, because thinking that that was the way that I would be able to actually see clients or do this or that,
Yeah.
and almost like feeling like a salmon going up against the stream all the time, of like, "Wait,
Mhm.
what am I doing here? I feel like I'm trying to fit into a box because this is what you're supposed to maybe do or whatever." And I think that that's been part of my journey, and kind of an acceptance of like, it's just not exactly where I'm comfortable, and I'm more comfortable in these realms with it. And
Mhm.
it just is always another thing that I've always appreciated about you, and I think why we've resonated together in many ways.
Yeah, yeah. It's kinda like, being a lawyer. Once people say you're a lawyer, you don't look at the world through the same lens anymore, and
Yeah.
I feel like once you're a clinical herbalist, you can't look at the world through that magical lens anymore in that same way. I think it just, um, your brain, um, gets activated in a different way, which there's nothing wrong with that, because we need everything. We need everybody doing everything. Like, you could do that. Somebody's got a real serious health problem. I would go to a clinical herbalist. If
Right.
I'm really working on an emotional level, I might go to a folk herbalist. So there's room for everyone. It's diverse. Well,
Yeah, I totally. I agree, and that was part of my, like, being okay with knowing that that's just not my lane, because I would, like,
right.
beat myself up about it or whatever. "No, I need to learn all this and do it and whatever," but, it's just a learning process as we all go through.
Hmm.
And so one of the things with the healing home, when I have a guest on that I know has gone through something like a huge healing journey, I always like to check in with them and see if they're willing to talk about it. And I know that you have gone through cancer yourself and came out the other end, and wondered if you would be open to talking about that as a journey, and what that looked like for you, and how that basically just helped you in your life. And if you have any tips or things for people that might be going through something like that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I had endometrial cancer, due to it was a PCOS, and I stopped bleeding for years, and I because it had always been such a journey of like uncomfortableness in the way that I bled forever. I felt like I bled more than I didn't. And so when I stopped, I was like, "Ah, thank God, I don't even care," you know. And so, so I went. it was, gosh, like 4 or 5 years. And thought like maybe I was in perimenopause or whatever. And I went to this amazing doctor. Her name is Samantha Atkins. She's in Portland. She's amazing. OBGYN. And she was like, no, this is not okay. And we're going to find out what's happening here. So she took a, sample, like went up there and scraped my cervix, and that was painful as all hell. And yeah, she actually called me when I was at work and was like, I hate to tell you, but you have endometrial cancer, and I need you to come in and so we can talk about this. And I was like, oh, I was at work and I had an intern there, and I was like, I gotta go. Will you close down the shop? And she was really kind. And yeah. So, I mean, my mother died of cancer. My mom suffered, well, she fought the battle for breast cancer for, oh gosh, I don't know, 14 years, 15 years. She had stage 4, and it just kept moving around her body and cut it out, kept going, move here, cut it out. Luckily, my mother was still with me when I got cancer, and she was like a super rock for me. I just had a radical hysterectomy and hit menopause like a freight train. It was awful.
Okay.
So quickly. And, in a way, like, because I know that cancer is really predominant in my family, my mom's side of the family, like most of her siblings, she had a pretty large family, of all died of different types of cancer. So I kind of feel like I know that's going to be my journey and probably what takes me out in the end, because I get my mammograms all the time, but chances are, I hope to say that I'm wrong, but I also have radical acceptance that could happen. But it was almost a rite of passage, and how I use that experience to better myself it was kind of like what COVID did to everyone, like where you just realize I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. I'm not guaranteed, this like time where I can do these things that I've always wanted to do. Like, do them now, like make those changes. Like, it just kind of stopped fear in its tracks for me. Like, I don't want fear to stop me from achieving anything that I want to achieve in my life. My wife and I right now are on a foster journey. We've been wanting to foster to adopt. Not really foster because we know what our end goal is. So we've been really reluctant to take on like fostering because we know what our intention is, and that doesn't seem right to me. So we would like to adopt. And however, we have told the placement desk, if they're Indigenous, we'll do that. We'll foster for them because that feels really good for our community to be able to help that way and keep them in culturally appropriate families. But yeah, we'll see if that, happens. We're on year 2 now, and it's been a lot of heartache and sadness, but we keep saying, no more, we're not going to do this anymore. Because we've had a couple of kiddos. One of them we had for about 4 or 5 months, and she was amazing. And she decided she didn't want 2 moms. And that was heartbreaking, but they found family for her. So in the end, it worked out. We're still friends with her. Like, not friends, but we're still in contact with her. And she does contact us when something really exciting has happened in her life, and that feels good. So, yeah, just about feeling less afraid to live life. And so, in that way, it was a blessing, I think.
Yeah. Congratulations on the journey of wanting to adopt and all that. And, I could see how something like cancer would put you in that mindset. And I think that that's like probably one of the best outcomes you could get is, I think anytime we're faced with our own mortality, hopefully it makes you think of those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were there any plants that came through for you during that time?
Yeah, it was interesting. I had a dream about horsetail, and
Ah,
that somebody gave me this huge um, basket of horsetail and just like stalks of it. And I was talking to Camilla Blossom. She's do you know who she is? Yeah.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, she's a spiritual teacher of like essences and things like that. And she was like, "Oh, that's so powerful." She says that's amazing. It's like, I started thinking about it, and yeah, it was like all about repairing the tissues and things like that. And so I started bathing with it and taking it internally, and uh, that was um, that was like the main herb that came to me. I also, used a lot of different other herbs too for, the pain of recovery. And wood betony was one that I used a lot, and skullcap and some nervines to help like repair the tissue. I still have like this sagging gut that I hate, but I'm trying to like find myself like loving her, because it's like a spayed cat, when you get like all those muscles cut, they're like little cats are just like, they got the little wobbly bellies. Feels like that. And that sucks, but it is what it is. I'm grateful to be alive.
Yeah, definitely. And wow, the horsetail makes a lot of sense too because
Yeah.
it's ruled by Saturn, and
Hmm.
Saturn is like our, it's life, it's rules, it's boundaries, it's lessons. I always think of lessons. And so that's really cool. I'm glad I asked that
Hmm.
question
Hmm.
because that to me, I just think that they plants and all sorts of things come through in all different levels. So it was almost like you were getting medicine just through the dream, even if you
Yeah.
didn't consume the horsetail,
Yeah.
even though you did,
Yeah.
it's like it's trying to give you its medicine through the astral. It's pretty awesome.
Right. Yeah. I love when I get medicine dreams. I also get animal dreams too. Snakes have been very prominent in my dreams in the last year and a half.
Ah,
Yeah, lots and lots of snakes.
yeah, the primordial mother is what I think of
Mhm.
when I think of the snake. Yeah, we've been doing research on Ophiuchus, the sign Ophiuchus. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the
Mhm.
13th sign of the zodiac, which is kind of like, I guess you could say it's controversial, but it's more of just a different system of astrology. But Ophiuchus is seeming to be all about the snake, primordial mother, the middle pillar, kind of like the transcendence highway out of this realm or whatever you want to say. There's a lot of connections. I can't speak too much on it because I'm still learning. But the things that Mario and I have been coming across and he's been sharing with me, I'm like,
Mhm.
whoa, this is actually really deep. And I just kind of wonder too, sometimes these deeper things that are a little bit more hidden have so many answers. And so you kind of got to wonder, well, why is it so hidden? Why are we not taught this? Is there really some deep wisdom there that should be
Mhm.
explored that could
Mhm.
actually untap something in ourselves so that
Mhm.
we have grander knowing to meander in the afterlife or something like that? That's the kind of energy I get from Ophiuchus. So that's what it made me think of when he brought up the snakes. Anyway,
Oh, beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
yeah, super cool. So I don't know if you still have them because I didn't notice them on your website, but you're the first person to ever introduce me to feather essences.
Oh, they're on the website. Is there?
Okay.
Are they not?
I don't know what I may have just didn't click on them or didn't see them, but I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I wonder if she's still making them." So I'm glad I'm bringing it up. So,
Yeah. I mean, they're there. Um,
okay.
Sometimes weird things happen, like work out on the website, and I'm like, what just happened? It was there yesterday. Yeah. Here. What did you What did you want to know about them?
I just wanted you to talk about them because like I said, you
Mhm.
were the first to
Mhm.
ever introduce me to it. I like the
Yeah.
concept of it,
Yeah.
and, if you wanna just explain the process of making them.
Yeah. I'm not aware of anybody that has made feather essences. And I was not taught, but I do know that you can essentially make an essence with anything. And so, with that concept, I was thinking about, because I love feathers. I collect feathers. I just I'm always the person picking them up, like some people are like, oh, those are dirty. Those are, yeah, but I um, happily throw it in my hair or my hat on a trail. Um, but yeah, because I mean, bird medicine is amazing, and they're teachers for sure. And so, how I make them is like any other essence, where you will put them in some water in the sun and let it infuse. I mean, I just put the quill part in the water and let that infuse through, a few hours of direct sunlight, and then you make your dilutions accordingly to, making an essence. And yeah, that's all. But yeah, they're pretty powerful, and lots of people have given me some really great feedback on them.
Yeah, for sure. I love the idea of it. I remember, and the
Mhm.
reason I remember it coming through was because when you wanted the labels designed and Mario was like, "Oh my god, she's going to make feather essences." And I was like, "What?" I'm like, "Dude, that's awesome." Because it's some like you said, I haven't heard anybody doing it, but it makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
And the birds, yeah, I mean, so powerful. And I'll just say that whenever I see the red tail flicker, I think of you because I know you have an essence of
Mm.
the red tail
Mhm.
flicker, and
Oh, I love them. Yeah.
yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there. But for people who are interested, head to Lori's website because they are up on there, even though
Yeah,
I
they
didn't see it.
are.
And there's a couple people in the chat even saying, they've never heard of a feather essence and they're very intrigued by it. So I definitely highly recommend looking into them because the birds have so much wisdom for us. And I think that there's a lot of wisdom all over the place, but the birds are pretty special. And there's like a language of the birds. And that's kind of like an
Mhm.
old
Mhm.
alchemist's way of
Mhm.
communication and tapping in basically just to nature and understanding that the birds have a language that if you tap into them correctly, you can know when they're alerting each other or there might be something in the air swirling.
Mhm.
There's something, whether it's etheric or it's a weather pattern coming through.
Mhm.
They have their own language just like we do. So I think it's really cool that
Mhm.
you harness that in an
Mhm.
essence for sure.
Yeah. I collected some buffalo fur when I was in uh, Montana, where they were on their path of walking. They would scratch their back on this branch of this tree, and so I just collected a little. And I'm like, I'm not sure how to make, because then, I mean, these you can clean the quill. Um, I don't know how to clean like the buffalo without, like, taking away its energies, but maybe one day I'll figure it out. Something will come to me, and all of a sudden be like, "Oh, that's how to do it." But I
Right.
think a buffalo uh, essence would be pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. Well, what comes to my mind is like how you make like a gem essence with a crystal or a gem that contains metals. How you like actually don't put it into the water, and you maybe put it near the water. Or I wonder if you had the buffalo hide or whatever the piece of the buffalo
Mhm.
you have. What if you
Mhm.
were to set like the distilled water and the crystal bowl on top of it or something. Do you think that would, transfer over enough, or what do you think about that kind of, essence
Yeah,
preparation?
I don't usually make essences quite like that, but I could see that working. Yeah, maybe bringing light. Yeah, I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, I'd
Let's see.
like to hear what
Yeah,
you come up with or what comes
yeah,
to you, because I
yeah.
always, I don't know, I wonder about that kinda stuff because you hear people talk,
Uh-huh.
just when you have, like, the essence of a person or
Mhm.
sitting next to you, you
Mhm.
feel their energy. There's a difference
Mhm.
between doing what
Mhm.
we're doing right now or if
Mhm.
you're in person. It's like you feel
Yeah.
the essence a little bit more, even though it sorta comes through on the internet, but it's, I think that there's something to be said about just being near something and being able to pick up on that energy, so
Mhm. Does the imprint stay, though?
right, that's the question.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say, uh,
Mhm.
whether or not, and then everybody has different, experiences, and everything affects people in different ways, so it would be a hard thing to measure, but it'd have
Yeah.
to be more of an intuitive based thing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, maybe the if it really wants to be made into an essence, it will tell me in time when it's ready. Yeah, it's making I like to get downloaded new ideas for medicine, and I got a new one right now. I don't want to share, but it's kind of amulet-y types of protect like a protection amulet that I think might be a very special offering. Not like I'm not going to pump them out, but but I have a really cool idea right now that yeah, I'll give you one as a thank you for bringing me on the show.
Ah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
understand the not wanting to share. Sometimes we have to wait until the moment is right, and it's like, "No, now
Mhm.
it's ready to
Yeah.
go."
Yeah, I want nobody stealing my ideas.
Oh, I know, and that's part of the thing, oh my god, part of the healing journey. Uh,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, well, none of our thoughts are really unique anyway. I mean, even though I feel like I've coined the feather essences, I can't say that somebody else hasn't had that idea at some point. Um, yeah. So it is, it's all about sharing.
yeah, I get that. It's totally been
Mhm.
a thing, and I've noticed that, you have to remember what you just said, and the abundance of everything. Because I think we can get at least I've found myself in a scarcity mindset when I think that way, and then I
Yeah.
realize, "Oh, man, my scarcity mindset is actually, not even allowing this to flow for me now because I'm
Right.
being so."
Right. Protective of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a
Yeah.
place and time for it, but it's just one of the things that I've come to realize, and I still battle with it, and then, it's just one of the things that I have to work through, and I think everybody gets that way, I think
Mhm.
it's part of our conditioning as well too,
Mhm.
from
Mhm.
childhood or going through schooling or whatever, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
a it's a thing
Yeah,
for
I like to
sure.
put myself in check when I get like that, like or worried about money or we're gonna get enough like money flow is not happening or like and then I feel like you get caught in that mindset and it does stop. Like you're creating, you're encouraging, you're feeding into um that energy flow. And I do like to keep myself in check and when I do stuff like that, I realize that I need to be more grateful. And I hone back into gratitude and all the things that I am grateful for and all the things that I have an abundance of and really put that back in check. I do have medicine for gratitude too.
Yeah.
I do. I have a medicine for all those things. But gratitude is, and that one tastes really lovely too. Um, yeah, because I
Ye
think that it's important that we all need to be mindful of our blessings daily.
Yeah, agreed. And, I'll say too, like, all your medicines always taste really great. That's one of the perks too of your preparations, I think, because sometimes, it's hard to make certain tinctures taste good, and you and I have talked about this. It's just like some.
Honey.
Yeah, and dude,
Adding some honey.
they're delicious. They're always so delicious. So I think too, there's something to be said about the flavor of your medicine that amplifies the healing properties that I've noticed because who doesn't like to taste something sweet? Most
Mhm.
everybody is into it. And it's
Yeah.
pleasant when you're feeling it, you're going through the ringer, or it's a dark time
Yes.
to have a
Agreed.
couple drops of something
Mhm.
herby and
Mhm.
delicious and sweet.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
that in and of itself can lighten the
Mhm.
heart, so
Yeah,
thank
and
you
the
for
bee
doing that.
medicine and the bee medicine, I mean, like, honey is an amazing medicine energetically on its own. But I think, like, when I used to not put honey in medicine because it is messy. It's messy to work with honey when you're, or glycerin or what, things like that that are sticky. Um, but I thought I thought about, because I vegans and it's not a vegan friendly, for people that don't want to have honey. So I've thought about removing that, but I want medicine to taste. I don't want it to be like a painful medicine, especially when you're going through a hard time. I want you to feel like you can absorb it and be there with it and not go, oh, like, oh, that was awful. I want you to go, oh, yeah. And I can taste the herbs and I can, even if they're bitter, the honey will, still make it pleasant. And, I've thought about, I'm like, should I change it to stevia? And then people are like, no. Fresh stevia, it tastes different though than like the kind that you buy at the grocery store for sure. It's not near as acrid. I heard it's like the calyxes on it that make it more that kind of acrid bitterness
Oh,
on stevia. Um, but I've also thought, like maple syrup is pretty expensive, and I don't know, honey dough it just has such a beautiful. Um, it's just I don't know. The bees say that I can, so I am.
nice.
And I try to get it from sustainable sources because that is important to me.
Yeah, right on. Well, I also want to ask, we've kind of talked about this, but if you have any closing thoughts on this subject of things that motivate you and keep you inspired as a business owner, and if you have advice for anybody else out there who would like to step on that path.
Yeah. Um, do what you love and money will follow, and if you don't take a chance, you'll never know. And how does that feel? To know that you've wanted to have this business or put these ideas out, and a lot of people have their own issues with, and I certainly do too, the imposter syndrome and all of that, but that just squelches your creativity, and it's not um good vibes to put around um your ideas, when you allow that little gremlin to sabotage you like that. But I am open for consultations if anybody does want to open a business or an apothecary or any small business. I feel like I'd be happy. I can do like, free half an hour consult. If you go to Conchi Fitch Consulting, I have a website and it's XANCHIIF is in Frank, ICH consulting.com. Um, but I also can I if we're closing up here, can I share some herbs that I feel like everybody kind of could use right now?
Yeah, totally. And I actually was going to add, kind of close down with something like that, and then
Oh,
also wanting to hear your strongest plant allies.
okay.
So yeah, let's conclude with the plants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you me?
Yeah, for you. Yeah, I'd love to hear like what's coming
Yeah.
through for you and then
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
strongest
I
plant
I feel like
allies.
we're all feeling a lot right now, whether or not you're, politically I mean it's politically diverse. I mean, I don't want to get political. I certainly don't. But we're all feeling what's happening right now in the Middle East. I mean, everybody is. And I feel like herbs, because we're all grieving in some way. There's and needing a little bit of he, heart healing. Um, so herbs that I especially love uh, all the time and just also just to kind of maintain you is hawthorn, um, holy basil, and rose. Those are three really big ones. Linden is another one for heart healing, and borage, gladdening the heart, and um, and then also things for protection as well. And rose is protective, but it's also very loving. Um, I think rose is a really good one to work with right now. You know, because it's and hawthorn and rose. I mean, they're in the same family. How about hawthorn and rose together? Those are just like two amazing, beautiful plants that, you know, they have their protection with their thorns, but they also are allowing the beauty. You just have to be careful, you know, with them. They just want you to be mindful, but they also want to share their love.
Yeah, that's nice. Those are I would say those are really good ones for people to be seeking out right now. And um I think I love the protection and the love aspect of both of those.
Mhm.
And that they're in the same family. And now
Yeah.
too, I mean Hawthorn, depending on where you're at, we're kind of we're not necessarily past the season of the berries. I mean, that was like you could probably still find some,
Mhm.
depending on where you're at, if you're wanting to do fresh stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, it's been intense. And I'll say, for me, blue vervain is one that has kind of really been helpful. It's always helpful for me, but I feel
Mhm.
like specifically lately, I've been feeling a little bit more of the fluttery heart, or for noticing that I will forget something in the moment, and then I'm like all of a sudden on something new right away, and then I'm like, "Wait a second. I didn't even complete that one last thought there because I'm jumping ahead to something else." And I
Mhm.
find that blue vervain is like perfect for that and
Do you have
really good.
ADHD? Is that an
Uh,
ADHD thing?
I don't know. I mean, I know that I've always had, like, even as a kid, in school or whatever, I'd always not be paying attention, or I
Mhm.
would pay attention, but I wanted to,
Mhm.
like, hang out with my friends more or make jokes
Mhm.
or, whatever. Um, and I feel like sometimes it's better than others, but I find that, during certain times, yeah, I think it's when I feel more anxious. If
Mhm.
I'm feeling anxious about something or whatever, that's when that really kind of starts to come through for me. So, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'd be
Mhm.
diagnosed or not, but I could see it. I wouldn't
Yeah,
deny it.
so many women. We have, because I was last year diagnosed clinically. I started going to therapy and, like, immediately on, the probably, like, the 2nd time I went, she was like, "I feel like you are on the, autistic spectrum." And I was like, "What? Really?" And so then I started really thinking about it, and she's like, "Definitely ADHD." She caught that one on the first one, and that comes out more like ADD, you know, with attention. And somebody I can ask them a question sometimes, and they're talking, and then I get distracted over here, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I totally, like, didn't even listen," and I feel terrible. Um, but I went and got clinically, diagnosed, and I late in life at 53 find out that I have ASD, and, have is not the probably correct word, but that I am on the spectrum, and, that's been interesting to but now I'm also seeing with everyone that I know, and I can call it out almost like I'm like, "Oh, that uh-huh." They don't know, but I have a handful of friends that I feel like, "Oh my god, I bet you they are also autistic." I'm like, "That makes sense," you know? But I think we all understand each other, so we all kinda hang out together because we're probably a little bit more, flexible with our quirky natures. Um, but yeah, um but ADD, women, girls, boys have ADHD typically, the hyper, and so they get
Oh, okay.
diagnosed earlier when they're younger because it's very apparent. Girls, we just have an attention deficit typically where we just kind of, space out easy or we daydream or, have some learning disorders because you're having a hard time focusing. Um, and so that's also very common and often undiagnosed with women.
Yeah, I could see that. And then so when you were diagnosed, did you notice, what did you notice? Did you notice, like, that things got easier because you were aware of it? Or was it more like, did you become self-conscious of it? Or what was your process of kind of leaning into that diagnosis?
I think I had some forgiveness for myself for
Ah,
things that I
yeah.
felt like, sometimes I don't have a very good filter, and things come out without me really thinking of how it might land. Or reading a room sometimes can be
Mhm.
difficult for me. And my wife has always been trying to, work with me on this. And when I got the diagnosis, she's like, "Oh no, that doesn't mean that you get a free free pass to like not keep yourself in
Right.
check."
Right, right.
So, I mean, there's that, and I but I do feel like there's a certain amount of forgiveness that I do have for myself now, where I can see um, how this has played out in my life as a child, even, because ADHD and autism are pretty hand in hand oftentimes. And so they kind of play off of each other, and how that, you know, how like I'm thinking about my childhood and trying to like, wow, okay, well that makes sense. And I always struggled with school, and I didn't think that I was very smart. And to find out actually, because they test your IQ, and my IQ is very high, but I have the ADD that prevents me from being, super scholarly. And so I always had a lot of anxiety around school growing up. And so it's kind of just trying to embrace the things that I can do well. And, you know, luckily, nature and I speak the same language and works out.
Wow, thanks for sharing that because, yeah, we have so much crossover. You just talking about that, it reminds me a lot of myself, and,
Uh-huh.
so I think you're onto something, Lori. Because just you saying that, I'm like, "Yep, yeah, that's exactly a lot of the way I felt a lot of times," and even as an adult, even in conversations with people, feeling like, I'm not being heard or not understood or like lots of furrowed brows, kind of like, what are you getting at here? Or like I'm not connecting something or whatever. And it's taken a lot of work for me to kind of get over
Mhm.
that and to just know, find my strengths. And just like you're saying, like lean into the things that I know that I'm here to do or meant to do that are in my heart
Yeah.
and really, really lean into that instead of trying to come across a different way because I'm trying to compensate for something that I feel is lower on the rung for myself or something. But
Mhm.
intelligence has kind of always been in that realm because school was always a little more challenging
Mhm.
or feeling like,
Mhm.
not quite connecting this here. So yeah,
Yeah. It doesn't mean
interesting.
that you're not smart. You just don't you're not on the same you're not neurotypical, and there I feel like education, and that's a whole other topic, is just, education in general, how they don't really take into account the diversity of neurodivergent people,
Mm,
and how education could be a little bit different, have if they accommodated diversity a little bit more in educational standards. Because I do great with like, I love teachers that were like fun and, animated and, use pictures and stories and things like that. I can hone in on that. Um, that's why what's his name? Not he's a really funny herbalist, and I just adore him. He had the heart attack a couple years ago.
oh,
Um,
Jim
Jim McDonald.
McDonald. Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can learn all day from him because he's just, he's animated and he's funny, and it clicks. But I think like sometimes neurodivergent minds need a different way of learning, and like it's just, with monotone teachers and whatever. Good luck. I am not going to pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you like Jim McDonald, I have to shout out my friend Kyle of Tippy Canoe Herbs. You could find him on Instagram, but I think you'd really like his flavor of herbalism too. He's a
Oh,
brilliant,
cool.
brilliant teacher. He's funny. He incorporates his knowledge is just I'm usually in awe of him a lot of times because of the way he can retain information, and he
Mhm.
has both sides where he's very playful, very
Mhm.
funny, very
Mhm.
visual, but at the same time he has that intelligent, like more clinical side like on lock
Mhm.
as well, and he blends it so good together.
Mhm.
So I feel like you would really appreciate his work.
I'll check them out.
Yeah, and him and I have done some collaborations, and him and Mario as well, and so, when you brought him up, I think that he'd be your flavor for sure.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and they him and his wife own a herb shop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and so
Mhm.
I kind of have some hometown, fist bumps going on with him in
Oh, I
that
didn't know you
regard
were
too.
from Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, it's pretty cool, but, yeah, he's a good one. So, finally, because we're coming now to an hour and a
okay.
half, and this has been a really good conversation. At this point, I do feel like we could keep going, but we'll respect each other's time, and I'd love to have you back at some point because I feel like, we can go in many directions, and I think that we both have some really great opinions on a lot of things that are even happening right now in the environment that we're all living in. But let's close with the herbs again, and I would love for you to just tell us who have been some of your strongest plant allies. If you have one or two that come to you immediately, that you like to work with the most or stand out to you, who are they?
Mhm. Uh, hmm. Hawthorn, rose, holy basil, poplar, cedar, um, and elderberry.
I
Those
like
are
it.
probably my most favorite go-to allies.
Nice. And you have a really nice article on poplar on your blog where you
Thank
go into,
you.
yeah, where you go into
Yeah,
that. So I recommend that for people as well.
yeah,
And
I love
last,
to talk about poplar. It's a fun tree.
yeah, I bet we could actually probably do like a tree medicine episode because I know that you have a lot. That'd
Ooh,
be fun. You'd be a really
yeah,
great person to tap into with that. That'd be
yeah,
really
and you
super
have all
awesome.
the lore and all that too, and yeah.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
I mean, I know, in the Pacific Northwest, we're surrounded by a lot of trees, and you are too in Battleground. So, before I also let you go, I wanna give you the floor to allow people, just let them know where they can find you one last time, and, if there's anything else you'd like to close with. Thanks again for being here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Sorry I haven't had a chance to look at the comments. With my ADHD mind, I would have a hard time trying to like
Well, and that's
yeah.
honestly why I didn't throw them up either, because I didn't want so I see you in the chat, I see you, I didn't wanna distract, because I can get distracted too, so we love the
Yeah.
chat, thank you guys for being
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. If you actually do have any kind of question that you want to ask me personally, you are welcome to email me directly at Two Spirit Medicinals at Gmail. And but my website, we do sell online and have a very beautiful website that Michelle's honey bun Mario has like done serious long hours, like helping me compile and make that look beautiful. And yeah, we have like teas and tinctures. I call them potions and essences and intention candles and a few other little odds and ends that I have in the makers special tab. Um, and I can also do consultations with herbs. That's something that I'm actually would like to launch this year. Doing herbal consultations, but more on the spiritual and emotional level. And I also can do. I have a website called Country Fitch Consulting, and that is for small business development. If you want to open your own business, whether it be online or in a retail brick and mortar. Yeah, I have a lot of ideas to help with that and getting you started with websites. Or I don't design them, but I can, give advice on what is easy to start out. Yeah, and just happy to be here. Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me. I get very nervous, and but I think I did all right.
Oh, you did great. Yeah. No, totally. And thank you for coming on. And I know too, being live, that does add a little spice to it, but you did
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. I
And
just didn't look at the comments, and that kept me grounded.
no,
All
good.
right.
And I'll actually also add your counseling link to the description as well, so people
Oh,
can
thank
find
you.
that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of
Yes, yes.
course. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much and much love and keep doing what you're doing because it's beautiful work and you're helping lots of people. I'll definitely say that for sure. Myself
Oh,
included, but I always recommend your products to people that I do consultations with too. And I just because I love it so much and it's been so helpful. So thank you for
oh,
making medicine and
appreciate that.
doing what you're meant to do.
Yeah, I'm in several retail stores as well, so you can find that link on my website if you are looking for a place to buy it. Okay, great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye, Lori.
Bye.
Have a good day. Alrighty, everybody. That was another great episode in the books for sure. And thanks for being here. And as we said, not much chat interaction today just to keep it focused because I too can sometimes get distracted. But I was looking and seeing your lovely comments. So thank you all for being here and listening. And I'm really excited to have been able to introduce Lori to the Healing Home community. It's really awesome. And so, as always, I do have some slides and updates for you guys, which I can bring up. Let's see if it's going to pop up for me. Slow internet out here in the woods, but we make do. Okay, so michelleshealinghome.com for all things healing home. You can now purchase products from my online store, which has been really awesome. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that's been showing their support by ordering products since we launched the store. It's been really, really wonderful. It's so much easier for the person who's wanting to order. And it's also easier for me because everything's just now there in the store and we're not having to chase emails and all that kind of stuff. So thank you, as always, to everybody. Thank you to all the patrons out there. You guys are wonderful and just really keeping me motivated to keep doing this. And your support really helps Mario and I a lot. So thank you to everybody. All your names are up here on the screen, and the Patreon community is growing, which is really exciting. And anyone who would want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/thehealinghome and you can find all the tiers of support. You can also just join my Patreon and you don't actually have to be a paid member. You can follow me just on Patreon and see the updates that I have there. But any special Patreon exclusives that are launched obviously will only be for the paid patrons. Full Moon Offering newsletter right now are my mugwort dream remedies, which I'm super, super excited about because some of the things offered here, like my Dreamtime smokes, herbal cigarettes, and herbal smoke blends, were my introduction to herbalism. That is how I found herbalism, even because Mario was looking into smoking blends and smoking herbs, invited me to an herb shop in Portland, and then the rest was history. I became an intern there, and then I stepped on the herbal path full force, and here we are. And mugwort is one of my all-time favorite allies and remedies to grow, to work with, to share, to consume. So we've got a mugwort smudge this month. We have a fresh mugwort dream oil, and then my Dreamtime smokes, which I just rolled a bunch more and just restocked the store. So for people who are interested in that, you can head to the website. And then you can also see my menu that's up on the screen here if you are watching us here on YouTube. All the prices are there too, and you can find all of those products on my store at michelleshealinghome.com. Next Full Moon Offering newsletter is coming out on December 26th. I have some new products that I'm working on. So we're going to be launching some new stuff coming up over the next course of the next couple of months throughout the winter. So if you want to sign up for my newsletter, you can do that on my website as well. That's the best way to keep up with me, to know what's going on, what offerings I have, what appearances I'm making, and who is coming onto the Healing Home next. So next week's show is a TBA on 12/12. We'll be coming together with somebody, but it's not 100% in the books yet. So we'll get there though. So for all you guys that want to learn what's going on, just join us next week on 12/12 at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we'll get into it. Mario has been featured on Crow now 2 times, which is really exciting. So his latest episode came out and they talked about the North Star, but they talked about the North Star mostly in his first episode, but the second episode was all focused on autumn, the signs of autumn and what they look like, what they mean, what they represent. So he also talked a lot about Libra. So if you guys haven't heard his latest Crow episode, it was episode 554. You can hear the first hours for free over at crow 777radio.com. He also was it just premiered a couple days ago. I think it was yesterday, but One-on-One podcast number 183, the Kenneth Grant Revival with Michael Stately and Symbolic Studies. So you can find that also over at symbolicstudies.com. You can find it on Juan's show as well. And all things Mario, as always, is symbolicstudies.com. And with all of that said, thank you guys for being here. Really enjoyed this conversation. As I said, I highly recommend Laurie's medicine. I was drinking, as if for people who weren't there with us in the beginning for this show today, I was drinking her Lightness of Being tea. This is all about forgiveness, self-love, and acceptance. I find that it's really good when you are in social situations because it really just helps you to tap into yourself more, to not be afraid to speak your mind, to just be okay being yourself. And I think all of us need reminders of that sometimes, but her remedies specifically really help me. And I think it's because, she makes everything with really good intention. She's tapped in. And if you listen to the interview, you'll know that she's tapped in, and she has a very deep earth wisdom that's awesome, and it comes through in all of her products. So check her out. She also makes these wonderful tinctures. This is the Restoring the Sacred Hoop that we talked about here. These essences are great. They've really come through for me in so many ways. Her Serenity Now tincture that she talked about, wonderful for acute anxiety. That's one of her best sellers, I know, and it was one of her best sellers before she even started Two Spirit Medicinals, as she talked about. But that one in particular, if you are struggling with anxiety, feelings of panic, feelings of spinning thoughts, that Serenity Now essence is wonderful. And I recommend all of her medicines that she offers. So, all right, you guys. Well, take care out there. I'm excited to have the rest of the day in front of me. As I said, we had an early show time, so that's always nice to mix it up a little bit. Thank you guys for being here. As always, I really enjoyed our talk. I hope you guys did too. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you soon.